Hello, everybody.
Hey, Tori.
Welcome in. Yay, excited to see you guys all here. I'm going to give everyone like a minute or two to join in, but I have a strict 40-minute time limit with this recording. So I am just going to wait a second or so we can get started. Oh, hi, Katie. My sister's on.
Hey, I miss you.
Miss you. Okay. It's another minute or so here. See more people hopping on. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me. Like I said, I have a pretty strict time limit today. I'm going to do my best to get through all of the information. If you have questions throughout the presentation that come up, go ahead and type them into the chat box. I'm going to do my absolute best to get to questions at the end. But if we run out of time, I'll still have the questions and I will get back to you with the answers. The purpose of today's presentation is really just to provide education and to provide more knowledge to you. So my drive for this really comes from my own experience with food and nutrition and wellness. I have kind of gone through lots of different phases. For a long time, I considered myself just a strictly paleo eater. I've done my fair share of juice cleanses. There was a period of time where I would say that I had a pretty unhealthy relationship with food as well. And I wasn't eating really nearly enough for what my body needed every day. And throughout all of those experiences, one thing that was the same was that I really just didn't have the education and knowledge about what my metabolism really was, how much energy my body needed every day. And so that's what I hope to share with you today, is just arm you with more education and knowledge so you can continue to make more optimal choices for your health and wellness, because it's very different for everyone, right? But the more you know. So today we're going to be talking about metabolism, macronutrients, micronutrients, blood sugar, some priorities when you're looking at food choices, and then a little bit about meal planning as well. So first, I want to talk about what is metabolism. I, for a long time, really just thought metabolism could be summed up as how much you weigh, how easy it is for you to lose weight, how easy it is to gain weight. And while some of that's true, your metabolism encompasses so much more. Your metabolism literally powers every single function and process in your body: your digestion, your immune system, reproduction, hormones, detoxification. We can kind of think of our metabolism as this like furnace that we have inside our bodies, and the food that we give to it is like the coals that you throw on the furnace. And so your metabolism needs a consistent intake of energy in the right amounts as well, so it can function most optimally. Without proper fuel, without proper nutrition, your metabolism starts to suffer. All of these different processes that are run by your metabolism slowly start to not work as efficiently. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit more about next, is what exactly is hindering our metabolism, and how we can support that better. So there are all different kinds of stressors that we experience in our life on a day-to-day basis. These stressors come in all different kinds of forms. We can look at stressors in regards to nutrition, so undereating, overeating, yo-yo dieting. In regards to exercise, if we're exercising like crazy all of the time, or if we're not exercising enough, there's that middle ground there. And then we have to consider all of the other lifestyle factors that are stressors as well. So if we have past or present emotional traumas, that can stressor on our body as well. Not getting enough of the right kinds of nutrients puts a stress on our body. And then really just looking at what our lifestyle is like on a day-to-day basis. Do we live a really fast-paced lifestyle where we're not taking enough time to slow down, to rest? Are we always go, 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 dealing with a chronic illness, things of that nature? And now this is not to say that stress is bad. Stress is a part of life. We're never not going to experience stress, right? But the viewpoint to kind of start to take on it in regards to your metabolism and your health is, how long have you had these stressors? How many of them are happening simultaneously? And what steps are you taking to support your body most optimally with all of those stressors occurring? So for example, about 2 years ago now, I relocated to Arizona from the Midwest. I relocated because I got a job here, and I was furloughed from the job like 3 days after I got it. I moved states, got a new job. I mean, there's just all these things. And I wasn't optimally supporting my body during that time, because I didn't really think like, oh, this move is depleting my body of energy that needs to be refueled with food and nutrients. So I think that's kind of where we start to miss how our lifestyle affects all of these functions happening most optimally in our body. So we have all of these stressors that we experience on a day-to-day basis, but how do we know exactly if it is affecting our metabolism? What are signs that we can look out for that would be indicative of that? There are many signs of a compromised metabolism: cold hands, cold feet, having a really big appetite or lack of an appetite, frequent urination, trouble sleeping at night, having painful periods, PMS, digestive problems, acne, depression. And I know that when I started to learn about metabolism, I would have never attributed any of these things to my metabolism. I was experiencing quite a few things on these lists, on this list over the last maybe like 2 years. And I never would have thought it's because I was lacking in certain nutrients, or maybe I was exercising too much, or just not eating enough food to support my energy needs. And so if you're experiencing any of these things and it's been going on for a prolonged period of time, it might be time to take a closer look at your body and how you're fueling it on a day-to-day basis, and if it aligns with all of these other stressors that are going on in your life at that time. So we really have to kind of, I think, broaden our scope of what we consider health. I think it's easy to put health into little boxes. We have a nutrition box, an exercise box, a sleep box, a digestive box, but really they're all connected to each other, right? And so this is a good step to kind of analyze your health and where it's at currently. So now I want to talk a little bit more specifically about macronutrients and micronutrients and how these play a role in your metabolism specifically. Every food contains macronutrients and micronutrients in varying ratios. So for example, an egg, just one single egg has about, I think, 5 grams of protein, 5 grams of fat, and no carbohydrates in it. And so the first step that you can take is becoming a little bit more familiar with the ratios of your food and what the macronutrient ratios are. So an example that comes to mind is peanut butter. Most people think that peanut butter is a protein source. And while peanut butter does have a little bit of protein in it, it's primarily a fat source. So just taking some time to kind of familiarize yourself with, well, how much protein am I getting every day? How much fat am I eating? How many carbohydrates am I eating? And is that enough to sustain what my energy needs are? So the 3 macronutrients are protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And all of them play a really specific and integral role in your metabolism and how well it functions on a day-to-day basis. Protein provides building blocks for tissues, organs, nerves, muscles. It is the building block of enzymes, antibodies, hemoglobin. Carbohydrates are the most preferred and quickest energy source of just energy for your body. And fun fact, your brain, while it is primarily made of fat, it can only use carbohydrates for energy. And when you don't have enough carbohydrates for energy, your body reverts to making something called ketones for energy. And ketones are only produced when there's not enough carbohydrates for your brain for energy. So we need to make sure that our brain is getting that quick source of energy so we can support it the way it needs to be supported throughout the day. Fat also plays a really important role in so many different processes and functions. Fat helps us absorb vitamins by carrying it into the cell. It helps us feel full for a longer period of time, and it's also needed to build cell membranes as well. Macronutrient needs vary individual to individual, and there's a lot of different factors when it comes to what every person needs for all 3 of these different macronutrients. These factors include your height, your age, your activity level, what the goals are you have for yourself. Your basal metabolic rate is a great tool to use for kind of identifying what your baseline energy needs are every day. Basal metabolic rate is how many calories your body burns on a day-to-day basis just for keeping your body alive and functioning. So we all have kind of this threshold of what we need every day for these systems to run well. And that is not including how much exercise you're doing every day, how much stress you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. A lot of times when I am working one-on-one with clients, they are not hitting what that threshold amount of energy is every day, or they're really, really inconsistent with how much they are eating every day, especially within these macronutrient categories. They might get, 20 grams of protein one day and 100 grams the next day. So starting to bring some awareness to the consistency of your energy intake and, kind of the breakdown of it to make sure that your body is really supported as well as it can be. And I want to stress too that I think when people hear about kind of like tracking their food or knowing how much protein they're eating, I think sometimes there can kind of be a negative association with it. Like all you have to do is like count calories or something like that. But that's really not what I'm trying to get at all. This doesn't have anything to do with losing weight or gaining weight. While it's affected by that, this is purely about making sure all these processes in your body have enough energy to run well on a day-to-day basis. I mean, weight loss is really a whole other topic. We need to make sure that our bodies are fueled optimally every day for digestion, immune support, hormone health, all of these things to work as they're meant to work. Now, I'm really excited to talk to you about micronutrients, specifically minerals. Minerals are kind of the star of the show when it comes to all of these different processes working well in your body. You can kind of think of them as the spark plug. There are 4 main minerals: calcium, sodium, potassium, and magnesium. And minerals are depleted very quickly by all of those stressors that we were talking about earlier. So when you're going through a stressful time, you may have noticed that you have more like sugar cravings during that time, or you want more like carby foods. Fast food sounds good, sugar sounds good. And that's a very normal response for your body to have during a stressful time. Stress depletes energy in our bodies, and we need to make sure that we're actively refueling during that time to support the stress that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And minerals are kind of the first thing that they're like the domino at the beginning of the row that, once the first one gets tipped over, all of these other things start to be affected in our body. So I really like to start with minerals with people, because if there's not a lot of variety in the diet, or not enough of something, there's a really good chance that your mineral levels are lacking, and they could stand to be supported a little bit more. Like I was saying, this mineral depletion affects so many different processes in your body. When your minerals start to be depleted, your metabolism and your thyroid actually start to slow down. When these two things start to slow down, it compromises your digestion, which then increases the burden on your liver. And then this starts to impact hormone production and your adrenals and how well they're functioning too. So you can kind of see how it's this cascading effect that starts to happen in your body when just a few things start to get depleted and not replenished accurately and as often as they need to be. So minerals are critical players in our metabolism, and this is a great place to start if you are experiencing any of those symptoms of sluggish metabolism that we talked about at the beginning. There are several ways to replenish your minerals. I'm just going to briefly mention a few of them. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but Electrolytes are a really great way to replenish your minerals, not just any electrolytes. You want to find electrolytes that are made up of these main minerals. A lot of electrolyte drinks and powders are filled with cane sugar and dextrose and a lot of really other gross ingredients that simply aren't necessary on a day-to-day basis. So you may have heard of the brand Ultima. Ultima electrolytes are just purely minerals. And so I drink this every day and sometimes multiple times a day, and have noticed a huge improvement in different symptoms I was experiencing. There's another brand called Trace Minerals, and they have like little drops you can just add in your water that help replenish those mineral stores as well. And then there's some different kind of drink concoctions you can make that help replenish these stores. And I will get into that at the end if there is time for that, trying to be mindful of my time here. Vitamins are also a huge player in your metabolism. They act as cofactors in every metabolic process, which means that they are needed for the process to happen. They're kind of like the middleman that connects the two processes together so it can work most optimally. So they are involved in tissue growth, digestion, elimination, immune function, and an imbalance of these vitamins and minerals really makes it honestly impossible to heal your hormones, support your thyroid function, and have a healthy functioning gut. This is really kind of the foundation of where we need to focus our energy when we're trying to heal any metabolism dysfunctions that you may be experiencing on a day-to-day basis. I know there's a lot of information right there, so let me know if any questions come up. I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and talk to you more about blood sugar. And you may be thinking, why should I care about blood sugar, especially if you're not diabetic, pre-diabetic, or experiencing any symptoms like that? I first want to just kind of talk a little bit about what is blood sugar exactly and what's happening in our body to cause high blood sugar or low blood sugar levels. So when you consume carbohydrates in any kind of form, whether that's through vegetables, potatoes, fruit, juice, anything that breaks down in your body as glucose, this then enters your bloodstream. This increase in the blood sugar in your bloodstream increases a hormone called insulin. Insulin then transports the blood sugar for energy into our cells if it's needed at that time. Otherwise, it's stored for later use. And the goal is to keep your blood sugar levels stable. Too high of blood sugar and too low of blood sugar can lead to things like inflammation, acne, excess fat storage, irregular cycles, painful periods. The list goes on. I actually was reading about a woman who provides a lot of research and data about blood sugar, and she originally started researching it because she was having a lot of mental health problems, and she was able to resolve the majority of her problems through regulating her blood sugar levels, which I don't think that many people would link together mental health and blood sugar. So it's really involved in so many processes, and the majority of people experience irregular blood sugar levels, even if you have not been diagnosed as diabetic or pre-diabetic. So what happens when our blood sugar spikes? There are several kind of steps within this process, and not to get too sciencey, but the mitochondria are kind of the powerhouse of the cell. And remember, the glucose has been carried into our bloodstream and then into our cell for energy. And when there is too much, the mitochondria, the cell becomes overwhelmed and it starts producing free radicals. Free radicals do damage to our cells. They lead to oxidative stress and inflammation, and each glucose spike leads to glycation, which is a fancy word for aging in different scenarios, different ways in our body. So the aging might be, it can actually like visibly show up as wrinkles, which is really interesting. There's a lot of studies that link really irregular blood sugar spikes to faster production of like wrinkles in your skin. So this glycation process can kind of produce itself in a lot of damaging effects in our body. And there are a couple of different things that cause our blood sugar to spike. And that can be an increase in cortisol, which is when we're stressed. All of those stressors that we talked about at the beginning, all of those things can increase our blood sugar if we're not actively caring for it in the right way. And an imbalance of macronutrients in your meals and in your snacks throughout the day can also lead to these blood sugar spikes. So when we have more stable blood sugar levels throughout the day, we can expect to experience fewer cravings, better energy, more restful sleep, slower aging, that glycation process, slowing it down. And then there's also studies that show links to experiencing fewer menopause symptoms as well. So I want to talk about tips to balance your blood sugar that really don't require much change of you at all. It's just little tips and tricks to kind of change what you're already doing to make it more optimal for you. So the first thing that you can do, there's a really big link to vinegar and blood sugar and maintaining a more stable blood sugar when vinegar is ingested right before you eat a meal. So a really easy thing that you can do is dilute 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in some water and take it like a shot right before you eat. And that's going to help maintain more stable blood sugar levels throughout and after your meal as well. Another really, really easy trick is to just eat food in the right order. So I talked about how carbohydrates, which break down as glucose, spike your blood sugar. So if you have a meal that is, say, comprised of chicken, vegetables, and rice or potatoes or something like that, you can simply just rearrange the order of the food that you're eating. So eat your vegetables first, eat your protein, and then eat your rice. The simple rearranging of that and saving the heavy starchy carbs for last is going to have more of a positive impact on your blood sugar levels as well. Another easy trick that you can use is to go on a short walk after you eat a meal. It might not be going on a walk. Maybe it is just picking things up around the house, doing dishes, vacuuming, dusting. Just using your muscles for 10 minutes after you eat a meal is also going to have a more stable impact on your blood sugar levels. And then a little tip to eating dessert or eating something sweet, something that's higher in sugar, higher in glucose, eat it right after you eat your meal. So instead of saving your dessert for, say, like 3 hours after you eat, or as a standalone like snack or meal in the middle of the day, eat your dessert right after you eat a meal that has protein, fat, and carbohydrates in it. That's going to have a really more positive effect on your blood sugar levels as well. Now, switching gears, because I have less than 10 minutes, I want to talk a little bit more about foods and types of foods to prioritize when you're looking at macro and micronutrients and fulfilling those needs throughout the day. So when you're looking at protein, fat, carbohydrates, the priority is really to eat food in its most natural state possible. So taking steps back to just make it less processed really is the goal. And there's, it's kind of like a sliding scale of like raw to like super processed. There's happy mediums in between if certain things aren't available to you. So when you're looking at protein, the goals are to get as often as possible grass-fed and grass-finished, pasture-raised, organic, locally grown, wild-caught. You've probably kind of like heard these words throughout like the wellness industry, but it's really just saying that this is protein that has been raised and grown with as little interference, as little chemicals and pesticides as possible. Healthy fats are going to be things like grass-fed butter, ghee, coconut oil, avocado oil, coconut milk, raw dairy. Again, I was really excited to learn that raw dairy is legal in Arizona. It's not legal everywhere, which I recently learned. So you can get your raw dairy here in Arizona. I like to get it from the farmer's market sometimes. And then carbohydrates, great sources of carbohydrates are going to be potatoes of any variety. Don't be afraid to eat potatoes, please. They have a lot of great vitamins and minerals in them. Real sourdough bread. There's a lot of bread that has a lot of really junky ingredients in it, but real sourdough bread has like 3 ingredients in it, has protein in it, and it's the easiest for our body to digest. Fruit, eat lots of fruit, and then vegetables, of course, as well. The quality of our food is really just as important as the quantity of our food. So I don't want to bypass over that and kind of glaze over, you just need to make sure you're eating the right amounts. Yes, but you also need to make sure that the quality of that food is as best as you can make it, right? I also wanted to mention that the EWG.org is a great resource. They have something called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Every year they update this list. The Dirty Dozen are fruits and vegetables that are most heavily impacted by chemicals and pesticides. And you should try to buy organic of those if you can. The Clean 15 is just going to be fruits and vegetables that have little to no chemicals and pesticides, throughout their growing process. And so those ones are ones that you can, tend to buy more conventional. Just an easy way to remember it is, if you eat the whole thing, like an apple, you should try and buy organic. If it's something like a melon, where you're cutting away this thick outer edge, or like a pineapple, I don't worry about buying organic at that point. So that's kind of a more budget-friendly tip there as well. I also wanted to quickly talk just about meal prep because this is a question that I get asked a lot too. It really doesn't need to be that complicated. Enough is complicated in life, right? We can simplify our meals. What I like to do every week is just pick 2 to 3 proteins. I pick a couple of different potatoes and I grab some fruits and vegetables and I combine them in different ways throughout the week for meals. So it's really as simple as that for me. I also like to point out, don't forget about all the resources that are out there. There's tons of food bloggers, Pinterest, cookbooks that you can use for information. And then there are meal prep delivery services too. I think we also have to recognize our capacity and the time that we have to do things. If I know that I have a particularly busy week coming up, I sometimes buy my meat pre-cooked or my veggies already cut up because I know that it's important to me that I get that food in. And that week I'm willing to spend a little bit more money so I can make sure that I'm getting the energy that I need every day. Or maybe you do a crock pot meal for a busier week. I lastly wanted to share some resources with you. These are resources. I mean, it's really just a tiny, tiny amount of people and books and websites that you can reference for more education and more knowledge. I've provided some websites, books. The recipes in the middle are some websites that I like to utilize for recipe inspiration every now and then. And then for meal prep and delivery services, don't forget about your local farmers markets, the CSA programs where you can get fresh fruits and vegetables delivered from local farms. That is a great way to take advantage and support local businesses as well. I have less than 1 minute left. I feel like I flew through that, but I hope that it wasn't too fast and too overwhelming. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will check out the comments, the messages, and I will get back to you on those as well. But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this was helpful for you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Tori. That was great.
Thanks, Jody. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you. It was
You're
awesome.
welcome. Thanks, guys.